row after row, home after home. Across 10 provinces, the damage caused by the earthquakes is catastrophic. Clouds of dust rise up in the sky as cranes continue removing the rubble. There is hope that out of the ashes comes new life. The people and businesses affected by the quakes are slowly restarting their lives. This furniture manufacturing store in Hatay was one of the few that were only slightly damaged. They recently began production, encouraging many who've left the city to come back.
There is an economic and psychological aspect we have to reopen. This is not about money or economic pursuits. It's the support for our workers. Work gives a sort of psychological relief. It gives people hope. We are calling all locals who have left to come back.
Similarly, in the historic Kahramanmaraş Bazaar, locals are setting up shop despite repeated damage.
We couldn't open our shop at first. We opened it a week ago, but it got totally destroyed. We repaired the damage in a few days. Slowly but surely, we are now returning to normal, because we know we just need to start from somewhere.
The Turkish government says that it will support the opening of businesses across the quake-hit areas, establishing temporary trading centers and bazaars.
Our tradesmen have opened their undamaged workplaces and our factories have started production. We have established 6,000 temporary trading centers and put them at the service of our tradesmen. We are establishing bazaars consisting of 3,000 containers. We'll provide all necessary support for industrial facilities, factories, businesses and other employment areas that are critical for the recovery of the region.
The full extent of the destruction is still unknown, and Turkish officials are yet to release a damage assessment report. But the World Bank estimates that the cost is more than $34 billion, the equivalent of 4% of the country's GDP. Many are beginning to pick up the pieces of their former lives. The road to recovery, though, is a long, difficult and drawn-out one. Emre Boz, TRT World.
For more on this now, we are joined by Murat Ferman live from Istanbul. He is an economist and professor at Beykent University. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, Professor, I wonder, is there any assessment yet on the impact of the damage from these two earthquakes? I'm reading reports that point out to the fact that the affected region was once responsible for 10% of national GDP. What's the damage?
Well, greetings from Istanbul. Indeed, it was a very unfortunate incident. Hope that once in a lifetime, and it will remain that way. But those kind of incidents are called or classified under so-called force majeure actions from economical perspective. And as you have mentioned before, the initial estimates somehow indicate that somehow between 3 to 4% of GNP has already been lost. But of course, the accounting principles for national revenue is quite tricky, if you let me put it that way, because yes, there is an initial loss of enormous quantity, maybe reaching up to 100 billion, because as you have mentioned before, World Bank's first initial figure was around $30+ billion, but an initial and quite a recent another approach to this new findings indicate that it might be near $100 billion. But as a matter of fact, what you lose is already lost, but you have to spend money and you have to make investments and you have to cover the losses and expenses for regeneration, building up whatever is lost. Of course, we cannot say the same thing to our dear citizens who have lost their lives. Rest them in peace. But however, even the recycling of the rubbles might account to additional revenue of $20 billion. Therefore, it is quite a tricky situation under the accounting principles. Once something is distracted, yes, you lose a certain time, amount, sources, people, so on and so forth. But in order to build it up, there is now a new value to have a positive effect in the coming years on a national account.
I want to ask you, will those cities in that region ever be accessible again? Because we know that critical infrastructure was hit, not just roads and bridges and airports, but also schools and hospitals. What needs to be done now? What's the main priority?
I have no doubt whatsoever that Turkey is more than competent and willing to build back, and we are 100% capable of achieving that goal. But of course, it's a matter of the fact that we have lost an enormous part of our heritage, per se, especially thinking of Turkey as a cradle of past civilization and so on and so forth. There is some unrepairable or kind of unreplaceable damage. However, as a matter of fact, all of those force majeure incidents also paved the road or way to new and much more comprehensive analysis and studies and feasibilities. As you have mentioned very correctly in your sentences, this region roughly represents 10 to 12% of our GNP production capabilities. But from the agricultural point of view, especially fresh fruits and vegetables side, 25% of all our lands have been really in that region. So I kind of feel that following an initial study, especially the solid and land work and some geophysical analysis, we will be able to build up those cities. As a matter of fact, there is no other option. And I hope that this time we shall be much more solid. And we believe that as inheritors of this great history and carrying out the stories of all these ancient civilizations, it is our duty as Turks of contemporary times